video is going to be a little bit more about stability. I'm going to continue showing you some of my favorite exercises. A lot of these exercises are going to be done with an exercise band, and this one is circular. If you've ever had physical therapy and gotten any cording, you can use that and tie it and create a circle. Or you can get this at Big 5 Sports, anywhere, Target, Amazon. So lots of these circular type bands. It shouldn't cost very much. They usually come in a set. You can choose light, extra light, heavy, extra heavy. So this band for me today is heavy, but I feel like this brand's pretty light. So I usually go with about a medium band for the exercises that I'm going to show you. I am all about stability, right? In our lives and in our exercise regimes, a lot of the times we're doing repetitions of movements, moving up and down through a movement. If you're dealing with any kind of itis, if you're dealing with arthritis in the hip joints, a lot of times I feel like we do too much repetition. So what these exercises are all about is holding a posture and finding all of the little pieces of information in that posture from your body that you can get. We're going to start just by showing you one of the most important exercises that you can do. You can do it anywhere, anytime. I recommend people do it when they're brushing their teeth. And that is standing on one leg. So simply, if you have something to use for balance, that's always really nice. And find your balance on one leg and just hold for 30 seconds and feeling that work on the outside of the leg to help hold you steady. As you stand on that one leg, can you not have a lot of shift in the hips? Can you leave that hip centered, feel your core working, and just hold it standing on one leg? Simple, one of my favorite exercises. Let's try it on the other side. Plant the foot. Feel both feet planted. Think about that lift coming from the pelvic floor as you pick up your foot, trying not to have a lot of shift, and hold on one foot. Feeling that that foot has a little bit of proprioception, or it moves, and our body's ability to react is important in our daily living activities. So brushing your teeth, you can brush your teeth with the opposite hand, down on one foot. You know, what is it? Rub your belly and tap your head. That one's hard. All right, so simple as it gets, stand on one foot. That's going to help us contract our gluteus medius, which is a big stabilizer in our hip modality. The next exercise I'm going to show you is going to help us just relax the hips a little bit if you feel like you've got a lot of tension in the hips. And that's just going to be to prop yourself up onto something. I would recommend at your home, you can just use your stairs with your banister in front of you. And all you're doing is propping yourself up so that this foot isn't down on the ground, so when we lift it, this hip doesn't have to lift. It's just going to think about if there was an equal playing field right here for our hips. So this foot has the ability to dangle. And all I want you to do with that foot is try to draw a circle on the ground. Like if your toe had a laser pointer, could you make a circle on the ground? Or would it be more of a square? Where is that circle lacking circle ability? So this isn't really about using the muscle, it's about finding fluidity in the joint. However, you are really going to be feeling the muscle on the leg you're standing on, because again, we're doing that one-legged work, stabilizing the gluteus medius and minimus. Nice. And take a break. Always switch sides. Again, same thing. The reason that you're stepping up onto something is so that this foot just has the ability to hang and be loose. The hips are on one plane, and you take this foot and you're just tiny micro circles. Can that ball and socket joint just have fluidity? Where is our circle not so circular? Should feel really good. The idea is to release that hip joint and feel the stabilization. and relax. Got a lot of hip exercises that I like to work just by simply propping yourself up and working on the leg movement with the other leg. That's one of them. Now it's time to get our band into the picture, and I recommend to put the band on that you sit down. That's probably the safest way. If you're really confident with the band, you can stand up and make sure that you're holding onto something. Go ahead and bring that around just above the knees. Okay. So again, you want a band where when you're sitting on the ground like this and you take your feet hip width distance apart, you feel a charge. You feel those legs kind of charge up and feel like they have to resist the temptation to let your knees sneak in. So we've got our hip width distance apart there. From here, I'm going to move my feet back and I'm going to hinge myself forward. So basically then I'm putting all my weight on the feet and I'm doing a little bit of a forward fold, right? Bent knees, really safe. From here I'm rolling up through each vertebrae of the spine and going to come all the way up to standing. Whatever is the easiest way for you to put the band on works for me. Now we've got this band above our knees, and we're going to start with our first stability exercise. At home, I want you to work up to holding a squat for 1 whole minute. Today, we're just going to hold it for a little while we feel the burn, get those muscles in charge, right? Charged up. So, we've got the feet straight forward, our hips are straight forward, and it's good to have something to help you balance. We're not relying on the thing to balance. I'm not sitting back. I'm trusting my feet. From there, I'm going to take my tailbone. I'm going to stick my tailbone back so that my knees don't go over my toes as I come into the squat. We also really want to make sure that we don't have overextension through the low back. So you can see right now that my back is arched. To fix that, I'm going to think about taking my pubic bone, pulling it forward, or taking my rib cage and pulling it back just a little bit. And what that does is it allows us to round through the low back, still maintaining that nice posture in the upper body. And we're going to hold this position for 30 seconds. So if you haven't found it, go ahead and find it. If you're in it but it doesn't feel quite right, allow yourself to come out, breathe, and here we go. Bend into the knees and hold. You should be feeling this not just in your quads. The idea of the band is to help us fire up those glutes and fire up those abs. You want to take it deeper into the abs, you can bring your arms up and think about plugging those shoulders back into the shoulder girdle, pulling the belly back, holding this nice squat. Don't go to where there's pain in the knees. Go to where you feel that the muscles are activated, but there isn't pain in the low back or knees. And we're holding for a minute. And it might feel like the longest minute ever. It's okay, keep going. All right, and go ahead and let yourself take a break. So, stabilization exercises fire up the muscles, also really good for the metabolism. Next thing that we're going to do is practice a hold, a posture, just by lifting one foot up. So we're going back to that idea of balancing on one foot, but we're also adding a lift of the other foot. What this is purposeful for is that in our daily life, we step upstairs, right, all the time. And if you don't have strength and stability in your hip joint, you're going to have a lot of fluctuation in your low back as this hip moves. So here we're seeing our ability to keep our core still with our foot lifted. So you find something, a stair, again at home works really well. That bottom, the standing leg, you can bend it a little to feel that athletic stance, pulling the belly back, making sure that that back feels nice and safe. And then the leg is straight and strong, and you're feeling yourself lift, letting everything make shapes or square lines. We're looking at parallel lines and 90-degree angles often. So there's a 90-degree angle at the hip, 90-degree angle at the knee, and we're keeping everything centered forward. And go ahead and take a break. So let's go ahead and try that on the second side. Again, hip headlights are forward, chest headlights are forward. We're feeling everything lift up into our pelvic floor, into our torso, into that breath is going to help us lift that leg, plant the foot on the stair, feel yourself take the hips and re-square them. Usually that foot that we lifted, we have to drop the hip just a little bit to keep our hips on a square plane. Making sure that the back isn't arched. You can always use something for balance. It helps. If you want to make it more difficult, you can play with moving that foot up and down and seeing, can you still keep everything else the same? Can you isolate? Great. So those are our standing exercises with the band. The next exercises that we're going to do with the band come down to the floor. So we're going to make our way onto all fours to a tabletop position. So to do that, I kind of lower myself the same way that we stood up earlier. We're just going to bend the knees, feel the tailbone come back, and as that happens, it allows us to fold forward safely. From here, you just walk the hands out onto all fours. When you find this tabletop position, you want to make sure that the wrists are directly under the shoulders and the knees are directly underneath the hips. Our next isolation is going to be, again, for that gluteus medius and gluteus minimus. We're going to take one leg and bring that knee back to about the calf. Then from there, we're going to take that knee and open up the knee, trying not to change the shape of the hips, trying not to move the foot, trying to really feel those hip muscles working, glutes working. Can we keep our tabletop exactly the same while we isolate and pull this leg out to the side? And take a break. Sometimes it feels nice to take the tailbone back and forward, just getting a little bit of a stretch in the groin and in the glutes. And let's take it into the other side, finding our tabletop position and taking that back knee, you kick it back so that it's in line with the calf of the stabilizing leg. And then you take the knee and you torque it to the outside, trying to keep everything else in your tabletop the same. And we're going to hold here for 30 seconds. Call these fire hydrants. The name fits. Here you can't see much of my leg that's lifting, but can you see my goal? My intention is trying to keep this part of my back nice and flat, as though my tabletop didn't lose a leg. And relax. Again, just taking it forward and back, getting a little bit of movement in those hips. You can take it off to the side, stretch. Keeping our band on, we're just going to move right on to the next exercise. It's going to take place on our side. I like to use a pillow, makes it a little bit more comfortable. So with the pillow, you're just lying down on your side, and I'm on a yoga mat, so I have the ability to just kind of line my back up with the back of the mat. I recommend that you do this against a wall so that you can really feel that we're in alignment in the back. You've all done a clamshell at some time in your life. The doctor or physical therapist or a friend has said, this is a good exercise. Again, we're taking the repetition out and just using the stability. So here I'm going to lift my top knee off of the lower knee, keeping the foot by the lower foot and not allowing myself to rock back. That's why the wall could be there to help you not resist that urge to open up your hips and roll open. So we're using our core to pull back to our imaginary wall or actual wall, and the knee lifted. and take a break. For those of you at home, you can just turn onto your back and then onto your other side. I'm just going to flip around so that you can continue to see. And we'll do the same movement on the other side. So you lie yourself down, aligning the back along the yoga mat or along the wall, keeping the core pulled back to the wall, and then lifting the knee off of the knee and hold for 30 seconds. Can you keep your hips facing forward even though that leg is lifted? Don't let everything roll open. Feel the belly pulling back to support the alignment of the hips. And take a break. Nice work, everybody. We are almost there. Next two exercises I'm going to throw into the mix while we still have our band on is I'm going to add a plank. Now you can do a plank without the band, but with the band, it just, again, it helps us find that hip width distance, a little bit of resistance, and a little bit more integrity into the core. Couple options with the plank. You can do a plank in a push-up position. So that's just your standard push-up position. Really trying not to allow the back to sink, trying to lift up through my low back, holding this posture. If that is difficult for you, you can always practice the same thing with a little bit of elevation. So I put myself up a little bit higher and create a plank here. Notice the plank happens when the tailbone kind of comes under, the pubic bone rolls forward, and belly lifts up and in. So you can get a lot of work in those options. I'm going to go for the third option, which is going to be using your forearms. We're going to put the forearms on the ground. Noting that in any of these options, at any time, you can put your knees down to the ground. So the forearm option looks like this. The forearms come down onto the ground. Can you get full purchase of the floor with your hand? Having the shoulders directly over the elbows. Step the feet back, straight, strong legs, and find that plank, that full push-up position. The front of the legs is fired up. The belly is lifted up and in. The shoulders are relaxed in the shoulder girdle. Breathe. Hold here 30 seconds. If you've in it, you started, keep going because we're working up to that minute. If at any point you need to, take your knees down to the ground. Notice that when my knees came down to the ground, my plank didn't change. So a lot of times when we take our knees down to the ground, we lift our butt up in the air and take ourselves out of the plank. I don't want to see that. I want to see the knees lower, and when the knees lower, I want to see even more lift through the pelvic floor. Hold. Again, working your way up to being able to hold this position for 1 minute. And take a break. Allowing yourself to come down to the ground, the arms can come behind you, and just let your head relax to the side. Take a few deep breaths here. Really getting into that breath, letting that breath really help us open up the hips, open up the back. Nice work, everyone. Last but not least, we're going to come onto our back and we are going to do a bridge. And we're going to do a bridge Pilates style. So those of you that have done yoga with me know that we're always looking for a lot of space under that heart space here. The Pilates bridge that we're going to do today is going to focus on that pelvic tilt that we keep talking about. So through that pelvic tilt, we're going to think about taking your pubic bone and rolling it up. And as you roll it up, the back comes into that flexion, that pelvic tilt, and you lift up.
In this position, can you keep your legs parallel? Can you keep equal weight on all four corners of both feet? Feel it, and let's have everybody come back down to the ground. As you come down, can you roll through each vertebrae of the spine? Each vertebrae of the spine comes down to the ground. And relax. I really want you guys to feel this in the glutes. I want you to focus on keeping your legs railroad tracks, hip width distance apart, and just feel all of those muscles, all of that stability working through the feet. And let's roll into it. Go. Roll the pubic bone up, feel through that flexion. Lift as high as you can, keeping those legs parallel. Feeling it in the glutes, feeling it in the hamstrings, feeling it in the abs. And exhale, roll down from the rib cage. Find each vertebrae of the spine. Roll down through each vertebrae of the spine. Good work. Bring the knees into the chest and give them a hug. If you cannot reach your knees, you can hold on to that band and pull it towards you. And you can also use a strap, rope strap, but really just letting that low back release. Good. Take your band off.
So everybody, I'm so excited to share those exercises with you. Those are some of my favorite stability focused exercises using the loop band. Thanks.